Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
This program is sponsored in its entirety by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network as seen on DCTV Channel 32.1.
The News at Noon program is the best assembly of news and local weather and poignant commentary for the Four Corners region. Give us your feedback and news alerts at 677-4119.
With all that said, I'm Kendra Cook and my co-host is Kelsey Kiesling. And now for February 8th, 2016, here's the news. The Cortez Journal reported, and they encourage you knock on wood, that based on current snowpack levels in the Dolores Basin, McPhee Reservoir will fill enough to meet full water allocations for area farmers, according to its managers. Current reservoir levels, combined with forecasted runoff between April and July 31st, will generate 270,000 acre-feet of water, enough to fulfill water contracts. Mike Preston, general manager for the Dolores Water Conservancy District, said that the next question is, will we be able to fill the reservoir and if there will be excess water to release for boating? A wet spring and early summer kept irrigation demand low and contributed to healthy reservoir levels, in particular 95,000 acre-feet of carryover going into winter. The positive outlook stems from snowtail sites in the Dolores Basin, reading at a combined 150% of the median as of last Wednesday. If the parade of snowstorms continues, the likelihood of a boating season on the lower Dolores improves. Snowpack conditions are shaping up to be comparable to the 2008-09 years when there was a substantial whitewater release from McPhee Dam. The last whitewater release was back in 2011. While kayakers, rafters, and canoeists dream of a coveted run through Snaggletooth Rapid and Slick Rock Canyon, the native fish are set up for improved flows as well. The managed release downstream includes a timed increase in flows to suppress the spawn. Water managers increase releases to suppress water temperatures in March, April, and May to delay spawning until after a managed whitewater release.
According to the Cortez Journal, the ongoing conflict between the Environmental Protection Agency and the owner of the Gold King mine shows no signs of slowing in 2016, with a land use agreement set to expire in March. Hennis started buying mining claims in the highly mineralized area north of Silverton in the mid-1990s. In 2005, he picked up Gold King, a historically dry mine with little to no discharge. But after the Sunnyside mine pool backed up from a bulkhead installed in the late 1990s, the Gold King increasingly discharged water laden with heavy metals. Pollution got so bad the EPA began a remediation project in 2014 on two mines about 10 miles north of Silverton, the Red and Bonita and the Gold King mine. On August 5, 2015, the federal agency broke the dam of loose rock and dirt holding back pressurized water at the portal of Gold King, releasing 3 million gallons of acid mine drainage. In the aftermath, EPA seized a scattering of Hennis's land claims in the area, including Gladstone, the site of the EPA's temporary water treatment facility. Hennis previously told the Durango Herald that negotiations with the EPA over use of his land had taken a bitter turn. As conversation continues among San Juan County commissioners and Silverton town trustees about pursuing Superfund listing, it remains unclear whether the boundaries will include any of Hennis's land. Hennis, a resident of Golden, has never minded Gold King and has said he hopes to sell his claims to a mining prospector.
Reported on KSJD Radio in Cortez, Dolores is about to join Dove Creek, Cortez, and Mancos in becoming home to a Family Dollar store. Town clerk and interim manager Lana Hancock told KSJD the 8,000 square foot structure is planned for a vacant former storage yard site just west of 11th Street and GST Liquor. Family Dollar is a discount chain with 8,100 locations around the United States. Hancock says the town is ready to issue a building permit once final pieces of information are received from the company. Under the town code, such applications are handled administratively, but Hancock took this one to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review to make sure any issues around landscaping, drainage, lighting, or other factors were resolved. Hancock says news about the store's arrival in the scenic town has been met with a mix of comments, some negative. But she says if an application meets all the criteria and fits the existing zoning, which this does, there's no legal way to turn it down. The owner of the Dolores Food Market, Taz Voss, agrees. He says says Family Dollar will make the pie bigger and there will be more money in town. He says there will be little overlap between what Family Dollar and what existing merchants offer, and the town will benefit from the increased sales tax. A construction date has yet been to be set.
According to the Cortez Journal, Democrats in the Colorado legislature will again push to expand an immigrant driver's license program after Republicans last year scaled it back. Speaking at a news conference surrounded by undocumented immigrants, some of whom have waited 2 years without a license, advocates painted the issue as being about fairness and safety. The bill, expected to be introduced in the coming weeks, would authorize spending for additional offices to serve undocumented immigrants. Sponsors say the measure would not require additional funds, as the program is paid for through fees assessed on applicants. The issue hit a boiling point last year when Republicans on the Joint Budget Committee blocked a request to keep 5 offices open for $166,000. After negotiations, it was agreed upon to provide $66,000 in supplemental funding for the current fiscal year, allowing for 3 offices. But the intent of the 2013 law that implemented the program was for at least 15 offices to serve undocumented drivers. This year, legislators want to expand the program from the 3 offices to 32 locations. Recent reports of abuses have served as a backdrop for the legislation. Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, a Republican, is investigating reports of people exploiting long wait times by illegally selling appointments. Proponents underscore that the Department of Revenue underestimated demand, which is why supporters believe the program should be expanded quickly. By doing so, more fees would be collected, which would allow for the program to serve more applicants.
In Utah's San Juan Recorder, they reported that the San Juan County Commission has approved a new map of voting districts for the San Juan School District. The plan will now be presented to federal judge Robert Shelby, who ordered the county to develop the new map. Judge Shelby is presiding over a lawsuit between the Navajo Nation and San Juan County over election issues. The proposed map to redistrict the voting districts was eventually accepted by a 3-0 vote of the commissioners. The county had developed the new plans with the direction that all 5 voting districts be of equal size. The boundaries of the previous voting districts hadn't changed since the 1990s, and the districts no longer had an equivalent number of people. The voting districts are the same size in the approved map, with a total variation of 10 people in a county with more than 14,000 people. Laws explain that setting up the districts strictly by population is tricky for several reasons. Many residents list only a post office box as an address. The new districts were populated by using census blocks rather than precinct boundaries. The voting districts can be redrawn after each census. As a result, the rulings on the matters by Judge Shelby will be run through the 2020 census, after which the district boundaries can be redrawn again.
According to the Cortez Journal, a 27-year-old conservative journalist is trying to force Representative Scott Tipton, Republican of Colorado, into a primary election this June. Alex Feinstein from Carbondale wants to oust the 3-term 3rd District congressman. Feinstein received some national media attention as the host of a radio show on current affairs while a student at the University of Chicago. After graduation, he earned a law degree from the University of Maine. Feinstein faults Tipton for supporting House GOP leadership in approving the recent federal budget compromise and the new Pacific Trade Agreement, backed by the Obama administration and many Republicans. In an email statement, Feinstein said Tipton lacks sufficient respect for the Constitution and has yet to do a thing about Saudi Arabia, the world's worst and most nefarious supporter of Islamic terror. And I don't think it made much sense to fight the Revolutionary War only to replace one monstrous central authority in London with another in Washington, D.C., he continued. And yet, career politicians like Scott Tipton act as if Congress should be a new British monarchy, voting, for example, on the Every Student Succeeds Act, despite there being nothing in the Constitution granting Congress the power to regulate education. Feinstein would need to receive at least 30% of the delegate vote at the GOP 3rd District Convention in April in order to force a primary.
High pressure to our west will arrive tomorrow, if we can bring up the regional map, and continue through the end of the week. This high will push the cold northwest flow we have been under for a while to the east. The high pressure front will bring in a slow warming trend, but modeling suggests the warming will be felt more in higher elevations and mid-slope, as the lower valleys are projected to be trapped under inversions. These conditions may cause late at night and early morning fog along narrow river valleys, but fog is not likely otherwise. The impressive low over the northeast and mid-Atlantic coast has been moving in a northeasterly direction and will be causing snow in parts of the southern and eastern New England as far south as Long Island, where snowfall is expected to be as much as 5 to 10 inches. For eastern Massachusetts and Cape Cod, 8 to 12 inches, with some areas expecting up to 15. The strength of this low, as it moves offshore, will cause high winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 65 for southeast Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and the islands. The snow will be wet and heavy, and broken tree limbs and loss of power are possible. These conditions will taper off tonight. A complex low-pressure system will move across the Great Lakes today. This system will produce generally light snow across portions of the upper Midwest today, which will combine with strong winds and gusting in excess of 50 miles per hour in some areas to produce blizzard conditions. Snow and wind should taper off across the upper Midwest by this evening as the system moves east. The system will also produce scattered areas of snow across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley today and into Tuesday. By this evening, the system will transfer energy to a new low-pressure system developing across the southern mid-Atlantic states. This system will spread precipitation across the Appalachians and mid-Atlantic, which will start as a mix of rain and snow for many areas, but will change to snow as colder air wraps into the newly developing system. As this low-pressure system moves offshore Tuesday morning, upper-level energy will linger over the Great Lakes, Appalachians, and Mid-Atlantic, which will keep areas of snow possible through Tuesday night for many of them. Heavy snow will be possible for portions of the central and southern Appalachians, as well as portions of the Mid-Atlantic region in association with this system. The system will also bring another round of snowfall to southern New England, although relatively light compared to the system affecting them today. In the wake of this second low-pressure system, much of the eastern half of the nation will become colder as an Arctic air mass moves in. High temperatures on Tuesday and Wednesday are forecast to be 10 to 25 degrees below normal across much of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Southeast. In our CO2 image, you will note that last week's CO2 average was 404.55 parts per million. Week before last, 403.11 parts per million. 1 year ago, 400.20 parts per million, and 10 years ago, 381.72 parts per million. As you see, the canned version of temperatures for the next 5 days shows our highs to begin with 43 degrees and climb to a full 10 degrees to 53 by Saturday, with lows at night to be 14 degrees tomorrow night and climbing to 22 degrees by Saturday night. I think we're more likely to fall about 5 degrees lower than all those expected highs on each day, and to be about 5 degrees warmer each night. And now back to the news.
According to the Cortez Journal, in April, Mancos voters will pick a new mayor, make a decision on internet rules, and select how long the new trustees will serve. 5 open Mancos Town Board seats will likely be filled by 5 candidates. Lorraine Becker, Ed Hallen, Craig Benally, Matthew Baskin, and Fred Brooks are all in the running. Both Becker and Baskin are incumbents who were appointed to the board. Hallen has previously served on the board, while Benally and Brooks are newcomers to town. It's a somewhat smaller field compared with 2014, when 9 candidates ran for 4 seats, but town clerk and treasurer Heather Alvarez was still pleased. Depending on how many votes each candidate receives will determine the length of their term. The top 3 in the April election will serve for 4 years and the bottom 2 will serve 2-year terms, said Heather Alvarez, town clerk and treasurer. Unless a right candidate enters the race, they are all guaranteed seats. The group will be joining trustee Michelle Black, whose term expires in 2018. They will be making $200 a month in their new positions after the current board decides to increase the salaries by $50 a month. The change was effective for the incoming board. Trustees Will Stone and Queenie Bars are competing for the mayor's seat. While traditionally the mayor in Mancos only votes to break a tie or to ensure there are enough voting members to hold a meeting, that could be changing. The town code gives conflicting direction on whether the mayor should vote, and the board is researching the issue to clarify it, said town manager Andrea Phillips. Voters will also be asked to decide whether or not the town should have the right to lease out internet infrastructure that it owns to companies who can use it to provide faster service for businesses and residents.
Agriculture.com reported that predicting that U.S. interest rates will go up in the next few years, real estate economist Mark Dotzauer feels bullish about farmland prices. He's feeling confident that farmland prices will remain steady without much of a drop, simply because the other investment opportunities are not too exciting, he said. In terms of investing in stocks and bonds, Dotzauer understands the reluctance. When the economist looks at other countries and the way they are dealing with economic struggles, he's grateful that the U.S. isn't printing money like China or Japan seems to be, putting too much debt into real estate investments, as that is how many people have gotten themselves into a poor financial state. Staying cautious with leverage was his advice. He is basing his investment decisions around the idea that the 10-year Treasury will be around 1% rather than 3% next time around. Quote, "I'll be surprised if mortgage rates get above 4% this whole year," he predicted, also anticipating a couple of meaningless rate hikes by the Federal Reserve. As for a market black swan, he doesn't have any life-changing predictions. The only thing he can imagine is Vladimir Putin running out of money before Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Libya, and making destructive moves to get rid of oil production in Iraq and Libya. Dotzauer spoke on the economic outlook for investors and business decision-makers at the 2016 Land Investment Expo held in Iowa last week.
According to the Cortez Journal, for child advocates, childhood care, health, and education are top priorities during the 2016 legislative session. The Colorado General Assembly convened last week. During the 120-day session, which started in January 13th, officials with the Colorado Children's Campaign hope to steer policymakers on a number of issues. Lawmakers will be pushed, for example, to provide quality, affordable child care for teen parents and domestic violence survivors, as well as expand access to mental and behavioral health services for young children. The latter, in regard to expulsion and suspension of children in preschool and early elementary grades, was a common concern voiced at a recent Montelores Early Childhood Council luncheon. The local organization works to improve the quality of services for young children and their families in Montezuma and Dolores County. The Children's Campaign aims to ensure that current health insurance coverage options are maintained, all women have access to reliable birth control, and every child is able to obtain affordable and accessible immunizations, nutritious foods, and safe places to live, learn, and play. The Children's Campaign also has vowed to advocate for fair and sufficient financing to meet the needs of students living in poverty, learning English or struggling to read, and accountability systems that give parents and educators information they need to improve schools. In Montezuma County, nearly 1,800 kids lived below the poverty line in 2013. The most recent available data, it remains nearly double that of the state's child poverty rate of 17%.
In a report by Marijuana Business Daily, they say that social media giant Facebook continues to shut down the pages of state legal cannabis retailers across the country. More than 20 dispensaries and recreational shops in Arizona, Colorado, Maine, Nevada, New Jersey, and Washington state have had their pages shut down over the past week or so. Those are just the ones MBD has been able to confirm, so the actual number could be much higher. Several of the closures were first reported by NJ.com, but more retailers have been kicked off Facebook since then. It's unclear if this is the start of a widespread crackdown or a smaller scale, more targeted move. It's also not clear if Facebook is only targeting retailers or other types of marijuana-related businesses as well. A phone call and email to Facebook headquarters were not immediately returned last week. The social media giant apparently is concerned that the pages are encouraging drug use, which violates the company's community standards, according to some marijuana retailers that received automated messages from the company. But one source in Colorado, who asked not to be named, said he had heard through a contact that the trigger is if a company is offering coupons or promotional deals on cannabis products via its Facebook page. Many retailers and other cannabis companies rely heavily on Facebook to connect with their customers and win new ones. The loss of a Facebook page, therefore, could have an immediate impact. 2 Colorado businesses that had their Facebook pages shuttered, however, apparently are already back online because the owners simply started over. They simply decided to leave out promotions, coupons, and the like.
According to the Cortez Journal, the Montezuma-Cortez School District announced this week that the new high school has been awarded LEED Gold certification, which was required by the Building Excellent Schools Today grant that helped fund the school. The LEED rating system, developed by the U.S. Green Building Council, is a third-party certification program and the nationally accepted benchmark for the design, construction, and operation of buildings designed to improve environmental and human performance. The high-tech school opened in August 2015 with flexible academic classrooms and studios for career and performing arts programs, as well as a focus on creating a healthy and energy-efficient learning environment. It was designed by Decker Parrish Sabatini and built by Nunn Construction. LEED Gold certification awards projects points based on criteria such as water efficiency, indoor environmental quality, and materials and resources. LEED Gold, the second highest award, is one of 4 possible distinctions. The school was required to meet certification as stipulated by the Building Excellent Schools Today grant, which financed the bulk of the school's construction costs. Funded by the Colorado Department of Education, BEST grants have allocated nearly $1 billion for new school construction.
And now for high country happenings. Well, if you've been wearing orange and blue but didn't get to spend a ton of money going to California to see the game in person, here's your chance to get to Denver to welcome home the winners. Tuesday will be a day of celebration for the Denver Broncos' 24-10 Super Bowl 50 victory Sunday over the Carolina Panthers. The entertainment begins at 10 a.m. with the music at Civic Center Park. The musical acts include Big Head Todd and the Monsters. At noon, the parade will kick off at 17th and Wynkoop Streets, when a rally will be held at 1 p.m. back at the Civic Center Park. For the full schedule and maps, go to the city's website, denvergov.org. More locally, the League of Women Voters of Montezuma County will be meeting in Cortez at the Ponderosa Restaurant on Saturday, February 13th at 9 a.m., where the District Court Judge Doug Walker will address plans for the Justice Building and court consolidation, as well as hearing of the League's plans for a student registration drive. The Dove Creek VFW Care and Share Food Pantry is for all Dolores County and Egner residents in need of food. Pickup will be on Friday, February 12th at the Dove Creek VFW Hall, the rear entrance on 3rd Street, from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And please bring identification for TFAP commodities. And a big thank you goes out to all the volunteers who help unpack and unload the food and organize it within the pantry. For details about the food pantry, you can go online to Facebook and search for DC Cares. And tonight, February 8th at 7 p.m. at the Sunflower Theater in Cortez, they'll be showing the documentary Out in the Cold with director J.D. O'Brien and his friend John Cupp, who leave the comfort of their own homes to spend a week of Minnesota winter sleeping either on streets or in homeless shelters as an opportunity to create experiential empathy with those who truly have to live without stable housing. While they were out there, they met a lot of people who taught them what it takes to survive without shelter and how to maintain hope during challenging times in their lives. Interviews with over a dozen of them are featured in this film. Some had been on the streets for most of their lives, while others were out there for their very first night. During JD and John's week on the streets, they experienced exhaustion, fear, and even hypothermia, but they also experienced hope, generosity, and got to meet some wonderful people and organizations working to end chronic homelessness. This film is for anyone who is willing to strip away their stereotypes about homelessness and anyone who has struggled to find hope in challenging times. There is free admission, while donations will be accepted. For more info on this and other activities coming up at the theater, go online to sunflowertheater.org. We'd love to share information about what's happening to support all of the regional groups, individuals, and communities, so please let us know about your event by sending an email to dcbnnews@gmail.com or calling 677-4119.
Again, thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon and rebroadcasted at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1 Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable Channel 5.
And you can also rewatch the broadcast on YouTube at the DCTV News at Noon channel, or check out the DCTV News at Noon Facebook page.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and all those who are working to bring you the DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time.